Hello, Mordarim here. In today's video I want to show you my early game Devastator build guide for Warhammer 40k Roguetrader. This righteous warrior uses the heaviest of weapons obtainable to obliterate, purge and annihilate every enemy standing before you, be it in melee through devastating AoE or single target attacks, or the use of powerful heavy weaponry in ranged combat. Nothing will be safe from your holy Imperial wrath. The most notable feature, besides the exceptionally high damage, is this build's incredible mobility, enabling you to get close to enemies no matter where they are, with the exception of ankle-high obstacles. Those are unbeatable in this game. There is no jump. Otherwise, you will blitz through the battlefield, slaying enemies to your heart's content, using a multitude of abilities and perks, like Charge or Daring Breach. Heretics will be brought to justice, increasing your wealth and influence in the universe with every encounter. Later on, you will get access to even stronger and heavier weaponry, as well as power armor to mimic the appearance and power of an actual Devastator Marine. During the early game, however, you will be lacking the ability points and actual equipment to achieve this. With this in mind, let's go over the build. We're going to start with the characteristics or stats of the character. We want a high weapon skill score as well as a high strength score. Toughness should also not be neglected. Weapon skill influences the hit chance, strength the damage, and capability to equip heavy weapons, and toughness increases our health. Ballistic skill influences the hit chance with ranged weaponry, and agility the damage of ranged weaponry as well as the dodge chance. However, we are going to use very heavy armor, so the agility score will kind of be wasted because we have a massive penalty because of the heavy armor on our dodge chance. Specifically for this one, the radiant chest plate I have equipped has a multiplier of 0.5 on our dodge chance. So when we look at an armor, we have a armor percentage that's mitigating the damage we receive, and then we have a dodge chance. On this chapter specifically, down below, there is written 0% chance of average enemy attacks in this chapter will be dodged. So agility is nearly completely wasted. As for the other stats, we want someone that is a bit brawny. So we have athletics with this character skilled. That's at 85. This one influences specific checks. And the main stat for this one is strength. We also boost our heroes a little bit, but nothing to write home about. The high weapon skill also influences the parry chance. Just remember, the higher weapon skill, the higher parry chance. The parry chance is versus melee attacks from enemies. There's quite a few in the game that deal melee damage, and you want to parry those. So if you parry something, you do not receive any damage, but if you receive any damage, you will then use your armor mitigation to reduce the damage taken. Next, let's go over the skill trees and the archetypes, like the Homeworld and the Origin. There's a multitude of things you can pick and choose here. We're going to use Abelard for this character. You can use your Roguetrader as your melee option here, but I, in my playthrough, do not. Specifically for a character that's going to be a melee character, I would highly recommend the Death World as well as the Crime Lord Origin. For the Homeworld, Death World gives you +5 strength, toughness and agility, and the Crime Lord gives you the Surefire Plan, a very neat and strong ability, as well as weapon skill and perception. The Surefire Plan gives you stacks specifically that you can use during the combat. When you use this ability, which costs 0 AP, you're going to boost your damage if you're going to attack, or if you move, you're going to increase your dodge chance or parry chance, or if you're going to use a taunt on the enemy will deal less damage. Those sadly scale with the perception bonus, and our perception bonus is very low as well as the instats, so we are not going to have massive amounts of boni from this one, but it's going to help quite a lot despite all that. Now, this game allows you to respec your character, however you cannot change your Homeworld or Origin as well as your base class. This character, for example, is one of those characters that I recruited. It is a custom Homeworld and Origin, but if you want to use a regular character, Albert is the best option. Next, let's have a look at the archetype of the warrior. We're going to pick up Charge first, then Athletics plus. We're going to pick up Endurance next. Endurance is a really nice defensive cooldown. This one can be used after attacking, so you can use your action points despite not being able to hit a target. Then we get Daring Breach, our ultimate ability. Basically, after a while in a combat, we can use this ability. This one gives us an additional turn with more AP and more MP, so we can slaughter enemies. We also do not lose MP after attacking, and we have unlimited melee attacks. Just for one turn, but you can slaughter basically all enemies in the battlefield with this one. For the talent, we are going to pick up Rigorous Training. The warrior becomes incredibly deft with the Charge and Slash ability. When we use our Charge ability, we do not end our movement, so we can move again if we kill an enemy with the Charge ability. This one is incredible for movement. Next, we have the Crowd Kill ability. So we're going to mostly use our AoE capabilities with our heavy weapon. So crowd kill is the perfect fit for this one. So for the next ability, we're going to pick up the Reckless Strike right in the slot. Albert gets this ability for free. So we have this one already, but this one shows Endure and Endure here. So it's currently buggy. A lot of bugs going on currently in the game, but Reckless Strike is something we want to pick up as soon as possible. Then we have Athletics, again, Weapon Skill, Combat Master as the perk, as the trait. This one negates the melee superiority bonus for enemies. So if we are surrounded, we do not get debuffed basically. You can right click to expand this one, hover over the highlighted text, and you get an in-depth explanation for this one. Next, we pick up Athletics, Swift Movement for additional movement. That's around 20% more movement. It's really, really good. 2 movement points are exceptional. We pick up Daring Breach 2. That's the second upgrade for Daring Breach. So you have 4 choices to make. The second upgrade is the one you want. You get MP for killing an enemy until the end of combat, and when we use an attack or an ability, we can still move and use our MP. This one stays beyond the first round. Next, we pick up the Intercept trait. This one is really, really good. When we parry an attack, one of our warrior archetype abilities costs less AP. This can be used for Endure or Reckless Strike. Reckless Strike is about 50% more damage and Endure is a lot more tankiness. So both are really good depending on what you want. You want to use either Endure or Reckless Strike. Then we pick up Strength, and the next ability is Sworn Enemy. Now Sworn Enemy is a really strong ability. We mark a target, gain additional armor and strength damage bonus for melee attacks against the target. So really good versus bosses. So you can engage them and they need to hit you, but you have more armor and you deal more damage to them. If the target attacks the warrior gets additional AP. So that's 1 per round. So you can use your Endure and, for example, your Reckless Strike despite not having the AP previously. Next, we pick up the heavy armor proficiency. Around this point, you're going to find heavy armor. Before that, you will most likely not find heavy armor, just medium armor, and you can equip medium armor without this trait. So heavy armor proficiency is needed specifically for heavy armor. For power armor, you also need a trait, but you get this one around 20, 25, so a little bit later. Not now. You do not find any power armor this early in the game. So heavy armor it is. Next up, we pick up again Strength, Coercion. Now we pick up the power armor proficiency. Again, Coercion, Toughness, Dueling Mastery for 15% parry. 15% parry is quite a lot. And then the 4th upgrade for Daring Breach. Now whenever we use Daring Breach, we also deal more damage. And this sums up the warrior cluster. This should be around level 15. For the next class, we're going to pick up the Archmilitant. This one gets a really nifty passive ability. So every time we use an ability, this means a single shot, melee attack, AoE melee attack, area shot or burst shot, we get a stacking buff. That's called versatility. For this versatility, we get +5 weapon skill and ballistic skill. At this point, we can think about using our ranged capabilities. So our ballistic skill is low. But with this trait, when we use a single target melee attack and then an AoE melee attack, then shoot the target and then shoot them again with an AoE, we now have 20 ballistic skill additionally and have a much higher chance to hit the target. We can also receive buffs from our other party members, so our range capabilities are now much better. After reaching 4 more stacks, we get additional damage. WS means weapon skill and BS means ballistic skill. Next, we're going to pick up the Wildfire ability. The Wildfire ability gives us an additional attack per round at the cost of AP. Now, the more versatility we have, the less this one costs. Later in the fight, we can use basically a free attack every single round without the cost of AP at all. We can use this for a range attack, for a melee attack, doesn't matter. So we have Wildfire, our regular attack, we have our charge ability, and we can use Daring Breach to attack more and more. Next, we are going to pick up the Always Ready versatility buff. So we get 2 stacks of versatility right from the get-go. This is really good because early on, we don't want to use our ranged weapon because we are most likely not going to hit an enemy. But if we already have 2 stacks, this one costs a lot less, the Wildfire. We can now use our range attacks more efficiently. Next level, we are getting the Steady Superiority Heroic Act. At level 20, we get an AP increase. Then we increase our weapon skill, get critical versatility. So for every single versatility stack, we get more crit damage. We have a high crit chance. Then we get more strength and we get Reckless Rush. This one is also a really good mobility skill. Lastly, we are going to prepare to lower the weight requirement for heavy weapons. We have the strength, however, we also get the overpower skill unlocked right next level, so right here, which increases the critical hit chance of our heavy weapons by the BS bonus and our crit damage by the BS bonus times 3. Since we are going to stack versatility with our melee attacks, we can now use our range attack, which will be a melter gun, a heavy melter gun, or any heavy equipment, and we are going to deal a lot more crit strikes and a lot more crit damage. We can also pick up the breakpoint ability, so the perk that's going to increase the weapon damage by 2 and deflection decrease by 2. So some armor later in the game will have armor deflection. So you're going to reduce damage by a flat amount. If you have the aforementioned perk, you're going to decrease this armor deflection from specific enemies. Now, this one is around 35 to 40 hours into the game. We are completely slaughtering basically everything that's standing before us. We want to further increase our weapon skill, our strength and toughness. And if we do have some skills left over, we want to increase our ballistic skill. Power weapon proficiency is acquired by Albert for free. Later on, you can also pick up power weapon expert. Melter weapon proficiency is also acquired for free. So you later want to pick up the melter weapon expertise, so experience. And for the class archetype, you want things like broad expertise, giving us additional weapon skill and ballistic skill, dependable for additional armor per versatility skill. Arms master is really good if we want to switch up our weapons. Adaptability can also be great for additional crit chance, so you will be able to equip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional talents and 2 generic talents additionally, so pick from those I already mentioned. And at the very end you will find the exemplar. The exemplar has some really neat abilities, but those are really far into the game. There is a lot to choose from, and depending on the items we acquire in the full game, because we are currently playing the full game, I'm going to go more in depth later on. Like I said, this guide is specifically for the early to mid game. Now, as for the equipment, just a quick look. For the helmet, I'm using the deck officer's helmet. For the chest plate, use something heavy with a lot of armor and armor deflection. You can also find knuckle guards, which increase the armor penetration damage of weapons, power grips for additional strength, grace of the obvious for additional toughness. We have only 30 intelligence, so we benefit from this one. The Navy Swashbuckler coat can be found very early on in the game. You get a parry reduction and armor penetration for melee attacks, so perfectly fine for this character. Charge, costing 1 ability point less, can also be found very early in the game. The weapon itself, if you do not have a power weapon like here, you can use basically any greatsword. Those you will find very early in the game. You will see the Brutal Strike having a little bit less AoE. You will have less armor penetration and less damage, but the power weapon, that's the shtick. You have a lot more armor penetration, a lot more range, a lot more damage. Those weapons are really rare. As for the range weapon, we're going to use the Melter weapon. This one has a lot of single target damage, a lot of AoE damage, costs 3 AP to fire, has little ammo, but the armor penetration is valuable and very huge. So if we buff our character with versatility, we can hit much better with this weapon. That's when we are going to whip out this bad boy and shoot enemies at range. But you don't actually need to. You can just whack them with the Thunderhammer and it's going to be glorious anyway. And for the consumables, we're going to use the Stim as well as the Intoxicating Elixir, both of which are really good. They cost a little bit of AP to use, but if you use them, you get more damage, more weapon skill, additional MP or AP at the cost of the next turn's AP MP or at the cost of willpower. Now this sums up the early build guide for the Devastator. If you liked the video, please consider leaving a like. If you have any questions, you can comment down below, ask away, I will try to answer them all. Also subscribe if you haven't already. You can also join our channel membership or leave a donation if you have the spare coin. And see you next time for my next guide. Bye.